Specialty pharmacy relationships with prescribers, new technologies' influence on physician workflow, opportunities to increase patient engagement. How are specialty pharmacies changing the healthcare delivery process? And why should manufacturers and providers care? Join us to find out. In the Know starts now. Hello and welcome to In the Know, your source for insight and analysis on the issues that matter to specialty pharma. I'm your host, Gina Clark. Today, we explore how and why specialty pharmacies have grown from niche organizations to become crucial partners in the way complex and chronic diseases are treated. We'll dive into the impact that web-based technologies have had in creating closer ties between the pharmacies, physicians, and patients. And we'll look at the ever-increasing role that payers play in driving the need for more efficient, standardized, and measurable pharmacy operations. Joining us today is Craig Miller, Vice President of Business Development for the National Specialty Pharmacy, US Bioservices. Thank you for being with us, Craig.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
So, Craig, what do you see as the current role of specialty pharmacies in the care delivery process, and how does this differ from years past?
Well, specialty pharmacy continues to be an important partner to the patients and providers by creating access to high-cost, complex therapies. And it really revolves around the patient. We need to provide the education about the product. We need to understand how to, for them to understand how to take the product, and then really work with them to be able to manage the side effects to make sure that they're being compliant to the medication that the physician really intended them for them to take. And then one of the other burdens that's been increasing has been the financial assistance. And we work with those patients and the providers to make sure that patients are able to access the medications. And the primary goal is just make sure that patients have the access to the therapy and they are compliant to the regimen. And the specialty pharmacy really should be viewed as a resource to the practice and the patient, really to achieve better outcomes for the patient. And the big difference is it really isn't so much the core capabilities of specialty pharmacy. It's really more about the environment in which we work. Change is constant. There are trends towards increasing prior authorization requirements, patient assistance needs, clinical pathway management, all with a need to understand and navigate the changes that are taking place with healthcare reform, which really results in and has a direct impact on the demands that are being placed on the physician offices and patient access. And our role is to make life easier for them.
Have the extra demands on physicians and nurses' time created a greater need for additional services from specialty pharmacies?
Absolutely. The burden sits squarely with the physician's office without our help. We did a survey of 135 nurses recently at a meeting, and we learned that 51% of them are spending at least an hour or more filling out paperwork when a patient needs patient assistance, or even where they're needing prior authorizations. And we also learned that many of those are spending greater than 2 hours per patient. And when we talked with the nurses, we learned that 1/3 of their practices are spending an average of 26 hours or more per week just managing the prescription process. So needless to say, the burden on the practice is tremendous, and our services are critical to the continuity of care. And as an organization, we can assist with all of those things to be able to help out with those practices.
What other factors are contributing to the increased need for specialty pharmacy?
Gina, some of the other factors that are increasing the demand right now is just the specialty pharmaceutical pipeline in the FDA. It's rich. There's a lot of things that are going to be coming out. Some of those products are going to be very unique, complex in nature. Some of them will be used in combination with other products. Many of those products will be coming out in some sort of limited distribution network of specialty pharmacies, possibly have a REMS associated with them or some element of safe use. In addition to that, there's always the need for compliance and adherence programs that are critical to basically the operations of specialty pharmacy to make sure that the patients are taking those drugs appropriately. And then last, the cost associated with those therapies tend to have the patients need some sort of assistance that we can help out with, which is core to specialty pharmacy.
So in what ways do payers fit into this equation, and how has their increased influence on care delivery affected the specialty pharmacy market and your interaction with all of the physician practices?
Well, payers are a critical link and a stakeholder in this picture. And if you look at it from a different perspective, payers, prescribers, and the manufacturers have a common goal for the patient, which is compliance. And the goal is to lead to better outcomes and subsequently lower cost. And so and from that standpoint, at the same time, the payers are in the process of looking at affordability, access, appropriate use, and different mechanisms to control cost. And all of these things will have an impact on points of care, where the patients will be seen, distribution channels, their individual benefits and access, things that move between the pharmacy benefit and the medical benefit, and how are we coordinating that. And in addition, as new products start to come to market, you'll see plans will utilize more clinical guidelines as a basis for their approval of therapy. You'll see continuation of the utilization of prior authorizations and step edits for initiation of therapy. And all of this means that we need to be looking at solutions for our practices, and specialty pharmacy is really the core to be able to support those practices in this changing environment and as we work with payers.
So Craig, let's talk about the role that technological innovation plays in the type of services you provide to your stakeholders. Again, let's start with the physician practices. How has technology affected your relationship with those practices?
I believe technology is one of the most exciting advances in our industry today, and it has the ability to literally transform the way we do business, and most importantly, the way our customers do business with us. And we've been very excited. Our new technology, My Pathpoint, is about creating transparency for them to see what takes place with a patient when they leave the practice and go home. It is a tool to be specific to each practice and focuses on helping that practice. We know statistically that when prescriptions are written, many of those prescriptions aren't filled. We know that once they are filled, that many of them are taken incorrectly. So this is really designed for making sure that they are in the loop with what takes place with their patient. And it's really there to support speed to therapy, making sure that the patients are getting on drug quickly, driving compliance and adherence, and above all, reducing the administrative burden for the practice that we just talked about, and the time and the resources that they're having to dedicate to make sure that the patients are taken care of. And it's really about providing real-time pharmacy information at their fingertips and the resources allowing a practice to choose how they want to do business with us.
What have you seen in the way of results, and where is there opportunity for future improvement?
The results are very exciting, to say the least, and the success of the technology is directly related to our relationship with the prescribers in their office. Once we rolled out live, we were able to speak with doctors, nurses, practice administrators, and pharmacists on, really how did it work for them. And one of the early results was that we had a practice administrator call us back and say within 48 hours, they were already able to achieve efficiencies, and they were able to see how this was going to be very meaningful to the way that they manage their business, their practice, and moving forward. And so we've seen a very, very strong utilization of the system once we went live. We've also realized that we've met an unmet need, and the system is easy to use. So we're looking at right now adding enhancements based on customer feedback with them in mind, and current innovation around clinical support, reimbursement support, and really looking at ways to integrate with other solutions that are going to be important to the practice and their future for how they manage their business.